To your classes, and the rest of us will stay here. And we're going to try. I'm going to turn this on. See if I can get it working now. All right, am I on back there? All right. As they step out. Finally got this thing working, so hopefully it'll stay working. This is, what we're looking at is Bible places. We want to see maps, materials about places in the Bible. And what I plan to do is, as we come to each place, I was thinking obviously when we come to a place, which we will be coming to soon, though not today, we come to a place like Egypt. All the things that happened with Egypt. Think about all of that. We're not going to go and look at pictures of Egypt 4 or 5 times as we come to each story. We're going to look at Egypt once, and then we're going to say everything that happened there. So quite a bit. Obviously, the same would be true for Jerusalem. How many times would we have to go back there, right? And so we're going to look at these things once, and then we'll be done with them. But today we are looking at, see if I can get this to work properly. The word is Ur. This is the hometown of Abram, probably where he was born. And I wouldn't be surprised if his grandfather Haran was born somewhere else and migrated to Ur from there. But nevertheless, this is his hometown. This is where he grew up. This is what was familiar to him, and so on. And so that's the town that we're going to be looking at. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 11 and verse number 28, and Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. Some of it say Chaldees. Anyway, so Terah was certainly born in Ur, and obviously Abram was as well, and so that would be the biblical verse there. Then also in Genesis chapter 11, verses 31 and 32. It says, and Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. So that's what we're going to be looking at. I found this, Stephen Anderson, some guy by the name of Stephen Anderson for Truth Only Bible, said this about Ur. And I studied Ur a little bit when I was in college. I had an interest in this, and one of the main excavators, the archaeologist that excavated, that dug down into the layers of Ur, was Sir Leonard Woolley. And obviously, you can tell what nationality he is, Sir Leonard Woolley, British guy, and he did a bunch of studies on this. We'll see some of these things as we go along, but this man says about Ur. This is just a little bit of what he had to say about it. Ur in southern Mesopotamia was founded by the Sumerian people. But the earliest Semitic texts in Mesopotamia are also from Ur. The Sumerians called the early Semitic migrants Westerners. Abraham was evidently part of the huge Semitic minority that lived in the large Sumerian city-state of Ur. Ur had hot and cold running water, a sewer system, multi-story buildings, paved roads, major temples, ornate furniture, and a variety of metal instruments. You see some of the, even some of the jewelry from that time. You know, a lot of times you would think that the way that scientists and people who study this sometimes give us the impression that those early civilizations were very simple. They didn't know how to do anything. And if you look at some of the stuff that these people did, they said it was even more sophisticated, more elaborate, more ornate than some of the stuff that even some later cultures and civilizations were able to do. And so right from the beginning, man was very intelligent. He wasn't a caveman running around beating each other with clubs. That's not at all the situation we have here. In fact, we have hot and cold running water at that very age. Now, I'm sure they didn't do it like we do it, but nevertheless, pretty amazing what they were able to do. Now, here's the map we're going to be looking at, and we start with Ur, which, if I can find my button here, there it is, down here, right in the corner, Ur of the Chaldees. And so that's where we start. This is in like modern-day Iraq, in that area. Some of this stuff, because of the turmoil over there, has been lately very difficult to get to some of these places and actually do anything with them. And some of them, because of the unrest, have been damaged and so on, even beyond what they were before. So, as we look here at Ur, one interesting thing I think right now as you look at Ur, this is kind of a fuzzy picture, but this is the topography of around ancient Ur here, and you can see this indentation in the ground. Ur right now is obviously in the middle of a very dry, arid desert. But back in this day, thousands of years ago, probably 4,000 years ago now, there was water right up to Ur. I mean, this was right there. And so things obviously have changed over the course of time. Now, folks, this is not millions and millions of years, right? Now, we know that. We know that during this time, this was 4,000 years ago, this water that was here is now out this way 150 miles. So you have to travel 150 miles to get to water, whereas water used to be right here. Now, what happened? Obviously, things changed. There are some who even think, last week I was talking about the Tower of Babel, that the one lady that I had on there, I didn't mention it last week, but one of the reasons she doesn't think that the area that is now Babylon would be the area where the Tower of Babel was built, she thinks it was still underwater at that time. Because obviously the flood had changed the topography of the earth, and it took a while for everything to get to where it was eventually going to settle. And can we say that things are even settled today? I mean, things change all the time. I was up at, several years ago, we were up at the Mount St. Helens. We visited Mount St. Helens in Washington State. And they were showing us how that eruption had moved. There's a whole lake up there. And the whole lake was actually moved when that eruption happened. The lake moved. It's no longer the same. It's not the same place where it used to be before the eruption. So it's still there. There's still a lake there, but it's a totally different spot. So things can happen very quickly. And here, obviously, we know that this change happened over less than 4,000 years, because Ur, oops, there we go, hitting the wrong thing. Ur was right near water. So we're going to look at the ruin. This is the Google Earth. If you can see this up here, you can see where this is the great ziggurat of Ur. This is actually Ur, the ancient Ur ruins that are still, you can still go there and see them. Obviously, they've been in better shape before, but the ziggurat of Ur, we'll see pictures of that. And then we have the various ruins here. Here's Ur here, where they got different things. The house of Abraham is down here. Now, I don't think that's really the house of Abraham, and I don't think there's any way they can know if it was. But that's what they call it. It's actually a big building there that was probably used for like government offices or something like that. But they call it the house of Abraham. And there it sits. May have been there at the time of Abraham. And so that's interesting anyway. So we're going to see some pictures first. Then I have a few videos I want us to see. Here is a fuzzy picture of one of the archways going in there. This is the ziggurat of Ur, one of the pictures of it. They had this huge temple basically dedicated to their moon god, Ur-Nammu. And they built this thing. I mean, this is an amazing structure for how old it is. And it's really in a remarkably good shape for how old it is. You'll hear him say, I think it's the video I put on here, that it used to be 26 meters or whatever in height. Now it's 17. But there's a picture of that. You can see the stairways coming from it. Here's another picture, a little bit more clear from another angle, of the ziggurat at Ur. Very well might have been here during Abraham's time. There's a picture of people, and there's a big stairway that comes down right from this big, huge structure. You can actually walk up those steps. They have people doing that, walking up those steps and going up to the top. And they have one guy standing up there, and you can see all the stuff from there. Back there's the stairway right there, as you can see. And then there's another view of one of the walls of this thing. And then there's another, there's some ruins. See the ruins here of the ancient city, and then behind that, the ziggurat behind that. So you can see that. And then I got a little bit better picture here of some of the walls, some of these ancient buildings here that were, of course, there's no roof on them now, but there they are, some of the rooms, and you can see the archways and things that they had for doors. Really quite nice. That's kind of what Abraham left when he went into Canaan. Eventually, of course, he goes to Haran first. We'll be looking at that. But that's what Abraham left, to go live in a tent and do what the Lord wanted him to do. He was not going to stay in Ur and practice their idolatry. He was following the Lord and what the Lord told him to do. Here's some of the other ruins around the area. Obviously, these are kind of in bad shape but you can still see the bottoms of these buildings. Right here, this is the tombs at Ur. We're going to see what some of the things that they found in there that came out of the tombs. So we're going to be looking at that, and that's what we're going to do now. Actually, I think this might be, well, one of these videos will have that on there. So there's two of them, and we'll go ahead and play this one first, and then we'll look at the other one. See if I can get it to play. I turned my volume up. Maybe I need to do that. It's not giving me any control. right, well, I'm sorry that wasn't louder. I don't have any control up here to do anything with it, so it's about as loud as we can get it, I guess, on there. So anyway, let's turn to the next one here. I don't want to do that. There we go. This is an artist's rendition of what the city might have looked like back in Abraham's time. You can see the walls around it. All the houses and stuff are around here. It's quite a big area. So this is what it might have looked like when it was actually really being used as a city. All right, I'm going to try this other video. I'm hoping that this one will be a little louder. Well, all right. Yeah. I think everything is in there unless this is not on, but is there a way to turn this on? Because I couldn't really hear it. Okay. Well, I've got it plugged in, but is this thing here, did we undo this when we undid the HDMI cable perhaps or not? Where does that go to? Okay. Because we plugged that other HDMI cable in, but oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, let's try it. We'll see what happens. Yeah. All right. All right. Let's try it. We'll see if we can get this to work this time. See what happens when we do this. It's not very loud. It's not coming out of here. You can try the speaker thing if you want. Yeah. Somewhere here I can get this.
I don't know where your speaker is at.
All right, we're going to try it
I don't
again.
know if we can set this up
Yeah, speakers
closer
are up
to
here.
here.
Yeah, unplug this, or is it already unplugged?
Yeah, you can unplug that.
It's going to be, there. Well, we're going to try this, see what happens now this time. See if we can get some more volume for it. And then I got to play it again. If I can get it to do it. Huh. No, it won't. Okay. Still no different.
Across the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is today Iraq and Syria. The traditional location of Abraham.
It's not coming out of my speaker here. How can that be?
It was and is
It's playing out of this HDMI.
made green by rivers.
That's what's happening.
Yet from this unpromising landscape arose the foundation of Western civilization, including the world's first cities and the earliest known writing system. This story is about boys.
Okay, I'm going to stop it just for a second. All right, see what happens. on a second here. Hey, that's better. All right. Whatever we got there is much better.
The land of ancient Mesopotamia lay across the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is today Iraq and Syria, the traditional location of the biblical Garden of Eden. It was and is a flat, desolate land made green by rivers, canals, and marshes. Yet from this unpromising landscape arose the foundation of Western civilization, including the world's first cities and the earliest known writing system. This story is about Ur, the traditional home of the biblical patriarch Abraham, and one of the most ancient of the southern Mesopotamian city-states. 3,300 years before the construction of the pyramids of ancient Egypt, Ur was already occupied. The modern name of the ancient site of Ur is Tel al-Mukayyar, which in Arabic means mound of pitch. The name comes from the monumental temple tower, which was made of baked mud bricks set into bitumen or pitch, a naturally occurring form of tar. In 1922, under the leadership of the little-known young archaeologist Charles Leonard Woolley, excavations jointly sponsored by the University of Pennsylvania Museum and the British Museum were initiated at the site of ancient Ur. The decision to excavate proved to be a fateful one. Perhaps no excavation in the more than 150 years of archaeological work in Mesopotamia has excited as much public interest as Woolley's work at ancient Ur. Woolley's excavations competed only with Howard Carter's discovery of the intact tomb of the boy pharaoh Tutankhamun for public attention. As a result of the extensive publicity, tourists from all parts of the globe, including European royalty and the author Agatha Christie, flocked to the remote site in the Iraqi desert. The artifacts which Woolley uncovered in his excavations at Ur were divided among the Iraq Museum in Baghdad, the University of Pennsylvania Museum, and the British Museum. The art you will see in this exhibition is from the University of Pennsylvania Museum. One of the most important parts of the ancient city was the temple complex of the moon god Nana, at the center of which was a ziggurat. This monument is not a pyramid like those found in Egypt. It is a series of stepped terraces with a temple on top. Woolley's recovery of Ur's ancient ziggurat and the complex of buildings around it was a remarkable find, but it paled in comparison with his discovery of the tombs of Ur's early kings and queens in 1927. Between 1927 and 1934, he uncovered 1,850 of the tombs. 16 tombs stood apart from the others. Each contained an extraordinary wealth of artifacts and evidence of human sacrifices. Woolley called them royal tombs because he assumed they contained Ur's deceased kings. Woolley recognized considerable variations in the royal tombs. Tombs PG 789 and PG 800 typified Ur's early dynastic royal tombs. Most of the important artifacts you see in the exhibition come from those two royal burials. PG 800 contained the body of a woman just under 5 feet tall and roughly 40 at the time of her death, whom Woolley identified as Queen Puabi. The body was adorned with an elaborate headdress. Several layers of gold ribbons, gold leaves, and wreaths of gold, lapis lazuli, and carnelian are all topped by a gold comb with flowers on the end. The whole of the upper body was covered with beads of gold, silver, lapis, carnelian, and agate, which Woolley thought to be the remains of a beaded cloak. Among Puabi's other jewelry was an elaborate gold belt with gold rings dangling from strings of lapis, carnelian, and gold beads. On Puabi's fingers were 10 gold rings, and around her right knee was a garter. One of 3 cylinder seals had an inscription that identified the deceased as Puabi, the queen. Near the queen's head was what Woolley described as a diadem made of thousands of small lapis lazuli beads that had been decorated with gold amulets. In this video, you see it as Woolley originally reconstructed it. It may not have been a single piece of jewelry, but rather several different pieces. Among the most spectacular of the precious objects from Puabi's tomb chamber were gold and silver vessels. The metalsmiths of Ur already knew many of the metalworking techniques that are still in use today. The decoration around the outside of this bowl was created by a method known as chasing. Tiny chisels and hammers were used to tap and punch the metal inward to create the patterns. On the ramp leading into Puabi's death pit were the bodies of 5 men, presumably guards, with copper daggers, a razor, and 7 pottery cups. In the middle of the pit, in front of the ramp, was a sled pulled by oxen. Mixed with the animal bones were those of 4 grooms. In the middle of the northeast end of the pit were the remains of a wooden chest decorated with lapis lazuli and shell inlay. Bodies and an enormous array of goods surrounded the chest. Gold and silver vessels, including a gold tumbler, and a spouted cup. A spouted cup made of lapis lazuli, which was probably imported from what is today northern Afghanistan. Silver heads of lions that originally decorated a piece of furniture, and a silver cosmetic box containing a black mineral pigment, probably the remains of coal, which is used as an eye makeup. The lid is inlaid with lapis lazuli and shell. At the southwest end of PG 800's death pit lay the bodies of 13 women. The women, all of whom wore elaborate headdresses, had apparently been in 2 rows facing each other. Musical instruments were found with them. PG 789 and PG 800 provided the foundation for Woolley's accounts of what had happened at the death of Ur's kings and queens. Each man brought a little cup of clay or stone or metal, the only equipment required for the rite that was to follow. There must have been some kind of service at the bottom of the shaft. At least it is evident that the musicians played up to the last and that each drank from the cup. Either they brought the potion with them, or they found it prepared for them on the spot, and they composed themselves for death. This coil of metal is actually a silver hair ribbon that was found not on her head, but still held in the hand of a young girl. Woolley thought she might have been late getting ready for the death pit ritual, and so rushed to the cemetery with the ribbon in hand instead of on her head. Written documents and pictures suggest that music and dancing were almost as common in rituals and festivals as were eating and drinking. We may never have known that the royal tombs contained these musical instruments if Sir Leonard Woolley had not used such inventive excavation methods as he did. The basic form of all the lyres was made out of wood, which decays over time. Woolley preserved the shape and size of each lyre by filling the spaces left by the decayed wood with wax and plaster. Because of the work he did, and because of the depictions on the instruments themselves, we know what most of these lyres originally looked like. Many of the lyres were decorated with shaped animal heads like this one. The shape was made of wood, and then gold was pounded into a very thin sheet and attached to the wood with bitumen or pitch. On the front of the sound box, beneath the bull's head, is this panel made of inlaid pieces of white shell on a background of black bitumen. Each of the 4 panels depicts animals doing things that humans do, or fantastic animals with human heads. One of the most famous objects from the whole cemetery features a goat. The ram in the thicket statue is spectacular. It is made of gold, silver, copper, lapis lazuli, red limestone, and bitumen. An engraved picture on a cylinder seal from Mesopotamia shows just such a statue being used as a table. Along with musical entertainment, games were placed in the tombs for the enjoyment of the dead. While all of the board tiles here are of animals and plants, geometric patterns and rosettes were also very common. The Ur excavations are a remarkable story, and Woolley's prize find, the early dynastic royal cemetery, is one of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever made. In a real sense, the royal cemetery, a previously unknown chapter in Ur's long history, exists today not just because of the effective collaboration between 2 museums, but also because of Woolley's extraordinary energy and talent.
All right, well, now we're going to see if I can get that to advance without Kim playing that. There's a picture. Abraham leaves Ur. That's an artist's depiction of that. Obviously, he was leaving for the country that God would share him to leave for. I thought to myself, I wouldn't want to be a musician back in Ur. When your queen dies, you got to die with her. Not very fun. Anyway, the next thing we're going to look at after, we won't look at it today, but where they went from Ur to where? They went to Haran, right? Before they went to Canaan. And so we're going to look at that next, but we don't have time to look at it right now. So we'll just end